Welcome to the Essentially You podcast. Tanmeet, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so good. I am so excited to have this conversation with you. I'm honored to be here.
I am so excited as well because I feel like this conversation, this book that you have coming out, Joy as an Act of Justice, this is the conversation that we need to be having right now because I feel like so many people are not cultivating or just lost without joy. What I would love to do to kick off this beautiful conversation with you is just kind of talk a little bit about your defining moment when you knew this was a topic that you felt called to share with the world.
Yeah. I felt like it really is culminating over time in terms of my practice. I really feel like, they call me an integrative primary care physician, but really what I'm doing day in and day out in every room is really navigating spiritual disconnection and a loss of meaning and joy for my patients. And that comes out in all their physical symptoms and chronic diseases. And then, my activism in the world has been really largely connected to advocating for my marginalized communities to get more access to healthcare and joy and meaning. But it all really culminated for me in the moment when my own son was diagnosed with a fatal condition, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, which for the listeners is like an ALS for children. And in that moment, I knew that I cognitively could push through, but I didn't want to do that. I wanted to thrive. And I wanted to know, how could I have joy when this was unchangeable? There was no way I could protest my way out of it or advocate in a courtroom or an exam room or with an insurance company. And this time I really needed to figure out how to find joy within myself.
Mm. And what did that start that pursuit? Was it really digging deep, kind of asking the right questions? How did you, I would say a lot of parents would say they would absolutely not know how to cultivate that. That's such a big diagnosis to for
Yeah.
anyone to get, but also for a mama to have to take on.
Yeah. Well, first, I would say to anyone out there, it's one step at a time. And I didn't figure it all out right away. And I don't think any of us do that. We do it slowly with support and love and connection and with the love of people around us and a good team. But I think in that very first moment, the story is actually in the book. And in that first moment of my husband and I sitting with our heads and hearts and our literally on the ground, on the bench, on our porch, trying to figure out, how did this happen to us? How did just in one moment my life change so catastrophically? There was a moment in there where we were questioning, why us? Why my son? His name is Zubin. Why Zubin? Why this disease? And there was a moment of realization in some way of, why not us? And it didn't change everything right away. But what that question, why not us, why not me, did was open us up to connecting with all of humanity who suffer and have to suffer through unchangeable and unjust, unfair diagnoses or loss or oppression or trauma. And it put us right in the shoes, as you will, or in the hearts of others. And it really opened us up. And I think in those moments, you want to close down, right? You just want to escape and be done. And in that moment, it opened us up to say, why not us, to lead through this with joy?
I was going to say, what a perfect question to ask yourselves. It's such a massive reframe, major reframe. It just opens the door to so many other possibilities when you shift that question to why not us? Maybe this is happening for us. Maybe these were the
Yeah.
lessons that we came in our soul contract to learn. Maybe because we have this capacity, there is something that we get to take away from this that we can then share with the world. But yeah, in the moment, oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. And even when you say all of that, Mariza, I really resonate with all of it. And then I know that in that moment, I would have cursed you out if you said that to
Oh yeah.
me. right? I would have felt like that's just bullshit, really. And I still do. When people say this is for all the right reasons or whatever, I really don't believe that. I believe we make our own meaning. That's the justice and joy practice, is that I get to, no matter how unfair or unjust a moment is, I have the right to pull out a way to form meaning and love and joy in that experience. I have the right to have more expansiveness around that narrow story, right? And so that's really what a lot of these tools and a lot of my book is about, is that it is our innate right to feel a wide continuum of emotions and not be narrowly bogged down in just the grief or just the sadness. Those are all important, and I never don't acknowledge them. And that's part of a true joy practice. But I acknowledge them in a more expansive way with my joy practice.
I really appreciate breaking that down for me in a way that can really relate to so many other people, because you're right. When you're given an unchangeable situation, and it just feels like, why did this happen to me? The last thing you want to hear is someone saying, well, yeah, maybe this was always meant to be,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I can imagine that is not helpful. But I love the perspective, like we get to choose how we get to act on this situation, how we get to view the situation, how we get to embody this into the way that we live in our life, and particularly around joy. Now, I have a definition of joy, and I'm curious because I
No,
haven't read your
I
book
love
yet. I'm
it.
so excited. I'm not going to share it yet, but it's really leaning to one of the questions that I know a lot of people have confusion around, which is there a difference between joy and happiness? And
Mm.
if there is, which I believe there is, and I know that you have a beautiful definition, what is it? Like, how can we
Yeah.
distinguish joy from happiness?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to answer that in two parts.
Yeah.
One is that in terms of defining joy, what you'll see in the book, I racked my brain to find a definition.
Mm.
And what I found was that if I defined joy, I was only conforming to the same oppressive systems that tried to strip my joy away from me.
Mm.
And that actually joy is everybody's right to define themselves. And so I feel like where the inherent nuance is important is where's that difference between joy and happiness, as you asked. Because for me, joy might be very different than it is for you. But the commonality is that happiness is a beautiful thing. Let me tell you, I want it all the time. I want it as much as I can get it. But it is not expansive enough to hold the wide continuum of what I experience in my life. And I mean that for everyone. It's not because it's my life. I'm just speaking for myself. Happiness is very binary. We're either happy or we're sad or angry or fearful or triumphant or, whatever it is. But joy draws on the same deep well as our pain. It draws from that capacity for love and meaning. It's way more expansive than happiness. It's the reason you can be at a funeral for someone you lost and love so much and feel so much heart pain. And in the same moment, laugh with someone you love who remembers something about them with you. It's the reason that we can feel grateful. For instance, my son Zubin, who we spoke of, it's just not easy. I'm frustrated every day. It's getting worse as we go along. I'm sad, I'm fearful, I'm angry. And I'm grateful because he has taught me so much about unconditional love, so much about living here and expanding my story and my life in every moment. And I can hold that with the pain. Happiness doesn't allow me enough room or spaciousness to hold all that. And so there's this way that, I tell people all the time, I was much happier in my life before Zubin was diagnosed. And that's even with bouts of very severe clinical depression and so forth. But I had these bouts of thinking I was happy, but I've never felt as deeply joyful, because joy is a deeply embodied experience that you can expand and create space with. And so that's really where I think the nuance is, and why joy can be held even when we are suffering.
That's just so profound and so powerful. I have a little bit of an obsession with joy.
Oh,
And that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have you come on, because I knew that you were going to expand my kind of definition of joy, what I felt joy was, and how I kind of imagine it is this spontaneous
ah,
experience that we have that can be filled often with like awe and wonder in that
yes,
moment. And so I
yes,
have a little toddler son. He's two and almost two and a half. And I am in the rapture of his constant moments of awe and wonder and joy and elation over just the simplest finding a rock, finding a seashell,
yes, yes,
hearing
yes.
about what breakfast is going to be. It is not even that exciting.
Oh, but you know what you're touching on is so critical. I talk about this in that we talk about I talk about awe and beauty and wonder, and what you're really saying is that you find joy when you connect deeply in a moment, either with yourself or with someone you love.
Mhm.
And there's this way that joy erupts, as you say, and emerges. And there's a way that I definitely did not understand when my son was diagnosed, that by sitting in the pain, I could see the joy more deeply. And so that's what I mean about it drawing on the same well, because you can imagine the depths of love that you're describing for your toddler son are the same depths that would you love him that much that it would cause so much pain if anything happened to him or if
Mhm.
he was suffering. That's a reflection of those same depths of love and the meaning that he brings to your life. So I love that way that you described it. It's really quite perfect.
Oh, thank you. And I love how you expanded it in such a beautiful way. And that really opens the door for wherever we're at in our journey to be able to experience more of it. Like you said, we deserve, it's a deserving.
Yes. Yes.
And I just love that so, so much. Because I don't think people feel that way at
No,
all.
not at all. And in fact, I talk about in the first part of the book, there's a part around not only defining your joy for yourself, but what are your ground rules that you'll use for yourself? And I offer mine only as a framework to come from, but everybody has to make their own. And it's funny you said that because one of my main ground rules is I deserve and choose joy. And I have to remind myself of that joy is innate. It's my human right. And, growing up, I thought joy was, I confused it with happiness in the sense of, we didn't have a lot of money to get massages or manicures or anything like that. We didn't do those things. And those looked like what I thought joy were. They were a commodity that you had time and money for. And what I'm saying is that there's nothing in this book that requires time and money. It requires faith in yourself that you deserve this. You deserve the right to thrive because the systems that break us down in this life, whether they're systems of oppression or unfair diagnoses or what have you, they strip us of our humanity and our will and our capacity to thrive. And once you reclaim that, you reclaim power in your body.
Mm. Mm. When I also think about it being, we were brought up with limiting beliefs and shame and everything was how we were worthy was predicated on being a good girl or being a good boy or whatever, being productive, whatever it may be, whatever that limiting belief, and that because we aren't worthy, we don't deserve joy. We don't deserve joy and or happiness in our life. And I think a
Right,
lot of people
right.
feel that too, like, and being oppressed, whether through a diagnosis or being brought up in an oppressed situation, again lending to that lack of worthiness as well, I feel can so hinder our thinking that we deserve joy. I know that I felt like I didn't deserve joy for so long in my life, and I definitely didn't know how to cultivate it. I felt like I was just stuck in a really crappy mindset and attitude, because it
Mm,
just didn't seem and feel available to me. And one of the ways that I really shifted it was, one, I began to believe that I deserved it.
yes.
And two, I really, one of my tools, I guess, and I know you have so many beautiful tools, and we're going to get into your toolbox in just a second, but I really leveraged gratitude.
Yes.
I always think of those two as kind of always think of spirals, but often it's the downhill spiral. It's the
Yeah.
spiral down. But I think of those two as the spiral up.
Yes. And in fact, in the neuroscience research, they talk about that upward spiral that can be created by tools like gratitude. And actually, when I talk about gratitude in the book, I not only talk about its power, but I talk about exactly how to use it, even in those times of oppression and unchangeable suffering. How it's actually not a contrived or false or, made up positivity, because people will say, isn't it just fake to have gratitude when you really
Mhm.
feel like crap, or when the world, like, it's falling apart all the time, it seems? Doesn't it feel like gratitude is just a fake thing? And I really go into that about how it actually is not by definition, and how gratitude actually allows us to turn towards our life, to break down the resistance we have to what may be going on that feels challenging. And so those are the different kinds of ways that I really frame these tools, both based on the neuroscience that really offers that reframe. It's just that we aren't offered that many times in the wellness world. We're offered if you can think your way positively out of this, you'll feel better. And that's just not really a fair qualification for people who have unchangeable situations.
I love that you were able to go in and kind of show and demonstrate through the research and through neuroscience that gratitude isn't just some kind of fake positive, way of false positivity way of operating. And I guess it reaffirms that it's a great tool for it's worked for me.
Yeah. Well, and actually the justice is that if it's worked for you, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, right?
Right. Absolutely. Well, I want to talk a little bit about one of the questions that you address big time, because it is when people are stuck in an unchangeable situation, or they grew up in marginalized communities, or they dealing with oppression, again,
Yes.
thinking that they don't deserve it. Talk to me about, not only does everyone deserve this, this is our innate right, but also that it's critical, especially when we're in these particular circumstances.
Yes. Because what injustice does and what oppression does is strip us of our humanity, strip us of our ability to see that we deserve to be here, that we are sacred beings who have value just like everyone else. And so joy actually becomes a liberation, a liberatory practice in our body. It's a way for us to stand up in this world and say, I not only deserve to be here, I deserve to thrive, and I deserve to feel the expansiveness and ease of joy, that safety in my body. And nothing you have given me or do can take that away. Yes, resources have been taken away. Yes, my rights around many things can be taken away, unfortunately. Let's keep working to change that. But nobody can take away my joy. And that's actually another nuance of why happiness and joy are so different, because happiness is external, it comes from external things, and it's great. But joy is inside our body, in those spontaneous, wondrous moments you described, and no one can take it away. And when I practice my joy, even in my cultural guilt, for instance, my limiting belief in my culture is that mothers must suffer if their child is suffering. If
Mm.
I were happy, it would mean that I'm not grieving enough for my child, or that I'm not caring or loving my child enough. But I'm a woman who deserves to feel joy no matter what's happening in front of me. And so that's the way that I get to use joy as an act of resistance, as bold liberation in my body, where maybe the truest justice actually lives.
That's so powerful. Wow. And you're right. You 100%, absolutely, unequivocally get to live in as much joy as you can possibly, expand into. And I just love that it being our I just love that we deserve it, that it's our right. And it's been this year. And my goal for 2023 is to expand deeper and deeper into more joy, cultivating more joy, and looking for more of the awe and the
Mm.
wonder. And one of the ways that I have chosen to do that, although I'm so excited to dive deeper into your toolbox, which I'm excited to dive into right now, but is through gratitude. So that was the one thing I had learned, is how do I access more of this the awe and wonder, this beautiful feeling, because it
Mm.
feels so encompassing. And I thought, okay, I did some research because I'm a researcher by trade, and gratitude was what I found to be the ticket. But I know that there's other ways that we can access it. And so I'm really
Yes.
excited to talk about that.
There are so many ways. Where do you want to start?
Ooh, how about your favorites?
Well, one of my favorites is actually really stepping into your body in movement. There's actually, I don't know if you're aware of the movement research that really shows that when we move our muscles, and I don't mean exercise, I mean just moving in the way that gives you joy, whether that's walking, dancing. For my son, it's shaking in his wheelchair or spinning around, right? Whatever that is, whichever is accessible to you, that we actually secrete an anti-inflammatory molecules from our muscles called myokines,
Mhm.
and that researchers actually call them hope molecules. Kelly McGonigal is the one who first introduced me to that term in her work. And when I looked in the research, thought, how is this? How did no one teach me this in medical school? That we're actually secreting things that the neuroscientists would call hope molecules, right? So the way we move our body, and I think of it as moving into the world, the way that we move and create and take up space. And there's a lot of research that if we do that with music in community, there are ways that we secrete oxytocin, which is a hormone that allows us to connect deeper and love more and create that river of joy. And I think about that. I don't know, have you ever been at an outdoor concert dancing with a ton of people, or in a time where everyone's sort of synchronized to a song, singing it or dancing? There's ways that we create that river of joy in our body and we feel it, but it's actually neurochemically doing that.
That's so powerful. Yeah, we do. We have daily, morning, and daytime dance parties in our house.
Oh, I love it.
Mini dance parties. We're all singing and dancing. And right now it's a lot of Baby Shark. I'm not gonna lie,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember those days. Yeah. And don't you feel like, people will say, so, if I move my body, does that mean I feel better? I don't know what you feel, but what
Mm.
I know, I often, I describe some movement meditations in the book, actually. I often sometimes cry when I do those, and they're vibrant, dancing and shaking to different music, but it's that it allows me to feel whatever there is there at the surface that needs to come out. And so that joy is not about feeling always better. It's about feeling more connection, more power, a different kind of revolution in your body.
I so resonate with that so very, very
Mm.
much. It's what's why we do it in our home is it just feels so good. And it's so much fun to do it as a little family too, because we're kind of feeding off each other. There's like this
Yes.
joy energy that we're feeding off of. And I don't know if there's research on that specifically. I'm not sure if you dive into it in the book. Obviously, we can cultivate joy deep within ourselves. But do you talk a little bit about that, the joy within community or the joy within family?
Yes. Within community is what comes up in this context around movement and connection. And, this way that we really, I think it goes way beyond the neuroscience. This is my personal opinion, but I feel like metaphorically, when we move with community, whether that's in a group walk for a donation charity, or whether it's dancing at an outdoor concert, or it's walking with your friend and talking, I think we want so badly to move out into bigger space, to create a bigger story, that connection to others and other stories through music, through movement, allows us to create that more expansiveness. And so I talk about that in the book. And I really think that community, for me and my faith in my culture, we sing in our temple, which we call a gurdwara, but we sing together as our prayer. And there's a lot of science neuroscience I talk about in the book around singing and humming and chanting. But there's a way that when I do that in community in my Gurdwara, I feel a joy that I don't feel anywhere else. I feel a communal kind of connection that gives me the knowing that I'm not alone.
I can imagine as people are listening right now that they know exactly. I mean, everyone's got their own human experience, but they can relate to that feeling.
And in fact, my husband was loving this. I've made this playlist as one of my bonus. I made a playlist to go
Oh,
with the book.
yes.
And
I
it
love it.
really draws on moments from the book. And my favorite thing is going to be to see if everyone can tell why every song is in there. But it's really, I will tell you, it was an exercise of joy for me to make that, just making that and imagining that people might move or sing along or be in a car listening to this playlist. I felt more connected to my readers, and they haven't even received it yet, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, now when it comes to the playlist, is the link for the playlist inside of the book itself, or is it a part of your bonuses, or is it
It's a
both?
part of my bonuses on my website. Yeah.
Yes, 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 yes. And we're going to have, just so you know, everyone, I'm going to make sure we're linking to the actual book bonus page where once you go and get the book, you have access to the bonuses that you can take action in that are a part of this beautiful book.
Mm,
Another tool that I know you talk a lot about is activating the vagus nerve of our central nervous
yes.
system and how that helps to cultivate joy. And honestly, I never thought about it. I always think about the vagus nerve for helping to mitigate trauma, to mitigate the stress response system, to help support our heart rate variability. But I'd never had expanded it out to joy.
Yeah. So here's the way that that works is that when we activate, especially what's called the ventral vagus, and I go into that polyvagal theory a little bit in the book, and when we activate that ventral vagus part of the nerve, what we're doing is activating two things that really contribute to joy practice. One is we're feeling more safety. And remember, when we are stripped of our humanity through an injustice, oppression, or a trauma or a loss or a grief, we don't feel safe, right, in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And our
Mm-mm.
body's trying to protect us. It puts us in a hypervigilant state. When we activate that ventral vagus, we actually are giving our body the message, you are okay in this moment. You are safe. We see that on functional MRIs
Mm-hmm.
by the fact that threat and fear centers in the brain are dampened and turned down, and our areas for clarity and motivation and our ability to move forward are activated in our prefrontal cortex. So there's ways that I too will tell you that I do a lot of mind body medicine with my patients and around the world in small groups, actually. And when I first started those practices, I thought of them as only relaxation. So, this is, and they are very important for that. But I now understand both through personal practice, through practice with thousands of patients, but also in the neuroscience, that when we, for instance, activate self compassion, we are actually giving our brain and our body the message you can stand down. It is okay. We are okay.
Yeah, I always thought about, activating our vagus nerve as an opportunity to, I always say, sending the brain safety signals, especially again, you're coming from a place of oppression or you have dealt with a lot of trauma where your brain is just doing the best it can to keep you safe,
Exactly.
not necessarily working in your favor in terms of
Yes, exactly.
cultivating joy and feeling good. But I
Because
love that.
actually, you
Yes.
can't feel good because your
No.
brain is telling you you're unsafe. You need
Mm-hmm.
to be on threat. Marisa, I feel like you should have written this book with me. You've got this all down. But yes, I mean, and I think you actually touched on something so important and central to what I'm hoping people will get, which is that you are not broken. You are not broken. The systems of this world and the injustices and the way it takes, the amount of work it takes to be human in this inhuman world is what allows our nervous system to protect us and make us feel hypervigilant, on threat, and unsafe. And now these are just ways to say that has not served us now for when we feel that too long. It is time to recreate safety and ease in our bodies.
We all deserve that. We really
Yes.
do. You have one of the things we hear a lot about today regarding resilience. And I know that you have a way of, in a sense, rejected kind of the wellness world's definition of resilience. I'm just curious, because when we think about, like, when I read about resilience, it's like having a good vagus nerve, being able to, in moments of stress, be able to, like, channel in a way of telling our body that it's okay. But I would love to know, because I know that, I guess, in the way that we may define it, that it's something that we should potentially strive towards, to having some level of resilience.
Yes.
But maybe there's a way that you define it that would embody more of a more holistic, more kind of embodied thinking about it.
So the way that I really think of resilience, it's actually what I think the way you framed it is perfect. The way that I don't appreciate it comes through is this sort of pushing through, that you're able to withstand everything, and that makes you resilient. In fact, I think of the way it's presented as resilience is what the world asks of you, but really your justice isn't how you choose to answer that, because the world says you suffer and then you're asked to feel good. Aren't you okay? Aren't you through this already? If you thrive, you're asked to do more, right? But
Right.
where's the spaciousness for the fact that my anger, my fear, my sadness are part of my resilience? That where did it become that my resilience is only because I'm able to push through and be okay or look okay? Now, I really think that the definition even is about you coming back to your normal. And I really think that when you look at the vast amount of science around resilience, the fact is that it's really, in my opinion, not a way to come back to normal, but a way to walk forward as a new person, cellularly, spiritually, however this challenge has woven into you. And when I think of resilience, I think of first asking myself, what do I need today to feel my most resilient self? And if I need to tap into my anger so that I can do more advocacy and justice work, then that's resilience.
So basically, I know that okay, so I love that. So when people may think of you as resilient, it could be a form of gaslighting, in a way of just like kind
Yes,
of get yourself up, dust it off.
exactly.
Obviously, you survived it. You were stronger for it. The
Exactly.
dismissal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And in my profession as a physician, I have wielded it this way. Everyone wields it this way, is that, if someone, for instance, I teach residents, if one resident's not able to withstand, quote unquote, training and needs a break, then it's looked upon as they need this, as they couldn't do it. And
Mm.
even though maybe supports are in place for them to do it, there's still a sense of they couldn't do it. And what if they are just so in touch with their nervous system and their body that they know when they need some rest? That is resilience, knowing what you need at any time. I mean, if all of us could know what we need, we would be better off, right? But that's not what we think of many times. We think, can't you just do it?
When I think specifically women, I mean,
Yes.
can't you just do it, or do it anyway?
Yeah,
I
and
remember
how
growing
much
up.
can you do,
Yeah, how
right?
much can you do? Like, growing up, was that's just the way it is for us. It doesn't matter
Yes.
how burned out you are. It doesn't matter how exhausted you are. You just got to get up and keep doing it, because you need to show up for the people you're taking care of, and
Right.
it's, yeah, and that's technically resilience.
And getting up every day and facing this world again is resilience.
Yeah.
Whether you do that in tears, in yelling, in screaming, in fighting, or in laughing, you got up and you faced the world again.
Mm.
And I'm not even, it's not a, give everyone a trophy kind of thing. It's a honoring of what it takes to be human in this world. It is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. Gosh, it is so many trials and tribulations, for
Yes.
sure. And we deserve to cultivate joy throughout it.
Yes.
Whatever that looks like for us. And I know that's the embodiment of this book. Is there one more tool that you would love to share? I love movement, gratitude, connecting in and really activating our vagus nerve. Anything else that you have found as a tool set? And what I love about these
Mhm.
tools is that they're free and that they're
Yes.
doable. We can do them at home.
There's so many, but I will focus on a couple of things. One is that I really want people to hopefully dig in and see how self-compassion is actually not a woo-woo thing. I think it's gotten bad marketing really, because it's really this way of creating safety, creating connection, turning off threat in your body, and a way of saying, even when the world has not given me what I need or nurtured myself the way I deserve to be nurtured, I can love myself and accept myself in a way that allows me to still step back into this world. And that people, I think the biggest kind of mistake or something that I see is that people think if I'm self compassionate, I won't reach my goals. I won't hold myself accountable. And what I would tell people, and I explain this in the book, is that actually I have never once in any dictionary found a definition of accountability that included shame or berating. That
Mm-mm.
actually inherent in the definition of self compassion is the fact of holding yourself accountable, because there is no way that we would have compassion for anyone, including ourselves, if we didn't wish for better for ourselves. And in that process of wanting change, whether it's you want to do a new lifestyle habit or whether you just want to create more joy in your life, every time that we quote unquote slip up is just a chance for us to remember that we're human, and that loving ourselves through that and still wanting better is actually the definition of compassion and love. That shame and guilt were never a part of it. And when we
Agree.
berate ourselves, we just turn on the threat. We actually, in our brain, heighten the amygdala and the fear centers, and we tell ourselves this world is not safe. And so imagine when we are already on threat, if we're telling ourselves that, how much heightened that can get.
It really steals from our deservingness of feeling joy
Exactly.
and feeling
Exactly.
good and feeling love. I deeply believe that we all deserve self-compassion. Again, I think it speaks into helping to create resilience to tackle another day. When we have that compassion for ourselves, I feel like we can arm ourselves and our neurotransmitters with that opportunity to go and show up.
Yes. And it's why I say loving yourself is a step towards your justice, because loving yourself can still mean that you accept you want better.
Mm.
Loving yourself can say, I accept that I want more and I love myself for trying to do that. So
Mhm.
it's not binary. We can hold all of that. So it's why I really say that self-compassion and loving yourself is a bold act of justice. It's a step towards your own justice, your own liberation and ease in your body, because it's a way to create safety. And actually, the science shows just the opposite of what people worry about, that if I'm not holding myself accountable, I won't achieve a goal. The science shows that the more you create that safety and connection in the body, the more your brain actually is being told, okay, it's safe. You can go forward and make change.
That's so beautiful and so powerful. And I know that we deserve so much of that, not only loving ourselves and compassion, but I know that when we come through that, not only do we get to cultivate more joy, but also I feel like we have more depth for compassion for other people.
Exactly. I swear you wrote this book with me. If you weren't, you were sort of with me somehow.
Maybe it was meant to be that we get to be together
Yeah.
today. That's what I
But
know to be true.
I kind of knew that. But yeah, it is exactly why I know that my capacity for sitting in other people's suffering is amplified and heightened by my ability to sit in my own.
Mm.
And it's actually why when people say to me, I can't imagine what you're going through with your son. You know, that's a common thing to hear.
Mhm.
And it comes from a place of love. I don't feel bad that people say it at all. But when I have the energy and it's a day where I have the energy to say it, I actually reply with, I would invite you to imagine what it's like for me, because the more you can imagine my pain, the more you'll be able to imagine your pain. And actually, imagination is a step towards justice. And so, this idea that I can't imagine what you're going through, of course, none of us know what others are walking through, but we can all say, I want to sit in it with you. I want to be here in the pain or the joy with you. And imagining each other's pain is actually a beautiful, beautiful act.
I love that you posed that question. Not only before stepping into motherhood, we had a miscarriage, and I had had so many friends in my life and colleagues and patients who had experienced that, and I knew what it meant to lose, to have loss, and I could feel that. But I just my depth for women going through fertility journeys and going through loss and going through just the pregnancy, like all of that, like my compassion and my expansiveness for, gosh, the female experience just magnified. And then my compassion for just for moms, you know,
Yes.
and my own mom and my grandmothers, although, you know, there's inadvertently so much trauma there. But
Yes.
then
Yes.
having compassion. But I am the mom who's on the playground or at the store or at the airport, who just has just endless expansion of compassion for every single mom out there. And so often it's never reciprocated.
Oh, yeah.
but
You're the mom everyone wants to sit next to on the airplane for sure.
and I'll make comments and I'll say, because I just have this, and you know, I always say that I serve everybody by serving women. And so
Mm,
I've always had this compassion and this love of women's capacity in general. But then becoming a mom, it just like up 100 times folded, like out of this world, like my level for compassion because of how much we carry in the mom journey. And but yeah, anywhere and everywhere, I just see moms, I see women, I see it's I just see everything so differently today.
yes.
And I'm so grateful for that, because I just feel like in who I've become, in my the neuroplasticity, the way that I think, my mindset, and everything around compassion, particularly, is just multiplied from becoming a mother. And it's one of my favorite, biggest things that I'm most grateful for in this
Mm,
journey, was that it amplified my compassion in the world. So I just thought I
that's
just know how
beautiful.
powerful it is, and just so grateful for that opportunity to have, because I had so much trauma growing up, and I was of this very limited mindset of like, well, I've had this really hard life. I've had these really hard, terrible things happen to me. We should all, and I think I had a really crappy way of thinking about resilience, a
Mm,
dismissive way of thinking about resilience, of just like, you know, I've been through this. It doesn't seem like you've been through as much. Like
mm,
you should be able to get over
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And obviously I shifted that many years ago. Everyone's trauma is their own trauma. And no matter what kind of experiences you've been to, those are your experiences and they get to be what they were for you. But, you know, I've over the years have shifted in such a big way in terms of compassion. And I'm always open and available to experience more of that for
Mm,
people, because I know people are in their own human experience and they're dealing with their own stuff, and it can be so hard, and it's never any right of mine to judge anyone's experience, and just to come from a place of compassion and as great of understanding as I can.
wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that. I actually feel like in that beautiful share, I saw so many threads of this, what I would call a joy practice.
Mm.
I heard gratitude, compassion, making meaning out of pain and suffering, compassion for others, sitting in our emotions, rewriting a bigger story than we were given. All of that are part of many of the tools, in the sense of really being able to come to our lives in a different kind of way so that we can hold the pain, but also see the beauty.
Mm.
That was just
Mm.
beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I didn't mean to go off on that tangent. I
No, I think
apologize.
it was
I just
completely
felt so
relevant.
inspired. And it's been this journey. And so, I was thinking about, and that's why immediately when I saw your book, and I just was like, oh, it would be so incredible to have her on the show. Cause I feel
Mm,
like I'm in this journey right now. And obviously it's a never ending journey, but I'm
yes.
so excited to get my hands on the book to expand. It's
Mm,
just the little that I've done just to be able to expand that into such a greater way, and through operating in my own joy, that maybe there's some expansion for others, at least within my family. I always
yes.
think that
Yes.
joy can be contagious, and I don't
It
know. Yeah.
is. It is infectious in the best of ways, right? And it's why we say, if you're around people who are happier or more joyful or whatever the habit is, you tend to do it more because it is contagious. There is that community effect. I agree. And there's a way that we were talking, really, it's full circle about joy in the beginning, the nuance that when you can hold that joy, it really allows, I think the way you're describing joy and giving it to your family is what I hope for my family, is that they can see me, my children see me cry, they see me fail, they see me get frustrated and angry, and they also see how grateful I am for those failings and for those learnings and how much I work at making meaning out of my suffering. And
Mm,
so, that's a joy practice of the very most contagious kind, is one that allows everyone else around you to also hold all that they're holding.
it's a gift, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Tamit, it's been the most incredible conversation. And I feel so much joy in this conversation, to
Oh,
be
me
honest.
too. Me too.
If I just have chills, it just felt so, so good to get to share your brilliance with my community, that this beautiful book is it's out now in the world.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
I know it's out where every major
Yes.
bookstore, obviously online, get in where you fit in terms of where you guys get your books. But the Meet has a beautiful book bonus page where
Yes.
you can literally go, put in your name, put your email in, let her know you got the book, and then go and claim your bonuses. I will have the link in the show notes for both the book on Amazon and for the book bonus page as well. And where else would you love for us to tap into your brilliance?
Oh, thank you. Other than my website, I'm really mostly active on Instagram. I'm on Facebook as well, but Instagram's where I really connect with people personally, and I love to hear takeaways and have people really reach out. So anytime.
Oh, perfect. And we were thinking about doing a little giveaway.
Yeah. Yeah, we were thinking for the listeners out there that if you tag both of us with your, biggest takeaways or one takeaway or more, then we'll select two random people to get a free copy of the book. That would be an honor.
Yay. And we'll do this on Instagram. So
Yes.
I will have your Instagram handle inside of the show notes as well.
Yes.
I will also have my Instagram handle too. And so you guys can do it either post or story. And there are two books up for grabs. Oh my goodness, so exciting.
Yes. It's
And
very exciting.
I'll have the details in the show notes for that as well. So, so generous. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And Marisa, I just want to say thank you to you because it's a surreal thing to be on a podcast of someone who you've heard their voice so many times on their podcast and just really grateful for the work you do in the world. And to have me on just feels like a gift, really a moment of joy. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm just receiving that. And I just want to say thank you so much. It's been such an honor and such a pleasure. And I just cannot wait to devour your book. I'm going to devour it on Audible first because I'm a mom.
Nice.
I'm a mama,
Nice.
and mama's got to get in where I just how I
Yes.
do it these days.
Yes.
And then I'm going to buy when a book is this potent, when a book is this powerful, I have to have it in both. I
Me
have to have it on
too.
Audible and I got to have it on hard copy. So
Me
I
too.
am excited to consume it probably in like literally 2 days time.
Well, it would be an honor. And I had a blast. I had so much fun narrating this book. I really felt like I was reading it I was imagining all the readers and really felt like I was just telling a story. It was so fun.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that you actually narrated it.
Yes.
It's not always the case. And
I
so
know. I
what a
know.
treat.
It was a treat for me too.
Well, thank you again.
Oh, Thank you. And thank you all for listening.